Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm gonna show you a Magnus Carlsen game and how he calculates. There are some general principles. Sometimes it's hard to give a general principle for everything in chess because chess is very specific. However, these are principles that you can apply in every game. Then you will be able to complete the sentences as you watch the video. The better your position understanding is something, check at the attacking moves on your opponent on when do I stop calculating, prioritize piece activity over what, and avoid this mistake. Do not calculate this. If you do this something else, it will work better. Question your moves. Ask yourself this one key question. And how many moves should I consider? Okay, so let's start with this one. I would like to start by showing this diagram. The first thing you have to do is think about your opponent's moves, your opponent's threats. So first you look for immediate checks, second captures, tactical threats, or piece activity. And as you can see, these are in order of priority. Then once you have done that, you look for your threats, your opportunities, your moves. First, you look for forcing moves, tactical opportunities, activating your pieces, and then your long-term strategy. And in the middle of this diagram, we have counterattacks of tactical motives, right? So let's check this example with Magnus Carlsen's game. Okay, let's start with this game. This is why to play, and let's see if we can track down how Magnus Carlsen thinks. E4, we get c5, knight f3, e6, d4, c takes on d4, knight takes on d4, knight f6. This is normal. This is the normal line of the Sicilian defense. Just to be clear, opening knowledge is not calculation. If you're calculating, if you're having trouble in the first stage of the game, what it means is that you need more opening knowledge. Knight c3, knight c6, knight b to d5, bishop b4, a3, bishop takes on c3. Now we take back with the knight. These are book moves. All of these are book moves. d5. We take on d5 with the pawn. Sorry, it takes on d5. Bishop d3, and castles. We castle. Bishop g4. So when do we start calculating? You can divide the board in two, and we start calculating up until the point the black's pieces or the opponent's pieces are in our side of the board. So here we start calculating. We are going to be worried about the knights coming in here, and now we are also worried about the bishop. Before that, it was knowledge. It was just opening theory. The second thing about calculating is when you're familiar with different pawn structures, you don't have to calculate them much. In this case, we have an isolated D pawn, which can become a strength for black as well as a weakness, because now we can target it with our pawns, with our pieces. However, we still have to worry about this bishop, so other beginners will freak out and maybe move the bishop or move the knight or even moving the queen. But those are not really good options. So we're gonna do more raw calculation, deep calculation later. But here we're just kicking out the bishop and let's just play f3. Okay, bishop retreats to h5. Now we play bishop g5. Okay, so we see this check coming, queen b6, targeting our king and our pawn. Can we defend this king? Yes, we can defend it with f2. We can also move it away by going to h1. So yeah, both of these options are fine. In the game, what Magnus did was he went to rook f2, so which is still playable and is completely fine. Now let's think about what black is going to do, the opponent's threat. Do they have any immediate checks? No, I think we have dissipated that threat by blocking with the rook. Now, do they have any captures? Yeah, they have a capture with the queen on b2, although that will worsen the position seriously, because what we're threatening is to take this knight, right? If we take with this knight with the bishop, now we are going to ruin this pawn structure. So taking here is not really an option for black. Now we expect this knight to be moved. And the best move for black is to go e4. Okay, this is what when we start calculating. This is the real deal. Now, what are our black's threats? If we do something, let's say that we ignore it and we move the king, or let's say, what would be a move that doesn't worsen the position? Let's say, oh, this pawn is hanging. Yeah, I think another good advice is to avoid one movers, right? Like, oh yeah, the opponent just hung the pawn. Yeah, but now this seriously worsens the positions because now the queen can take the rook, right? So that's not really an option. Um, let's go with other candidate moves. The threat is, we know the threat is the queen taking this rook, and which is being supported by this knight. You can say, oh, why don't we just take this knight? Yeah, but the problem is we're going to lose the queen. So that's not really an option. The other is just taking the knight, considering whether to take with the bishop or with our knight. So let's think about taking with the bishop. You can ask yourself, is there anything wrong with this move? Is there anything wrong with taking with this bishop? Probably no, because now we'll have eliminated the threat, and once black takes, we can retake with the knight, right? So maybe it's not really a big issue. It's more of a preference whether you want to play with the bishops and the knight. Now we also think about long term, the long term of our position, long term strategy, right? According to our diagram. Now, keeping the bishop in an open position like this with no pawns in the center is preferable. So yeah, maybe we want to take not with the bishop first, but first with the knight. So yeah, we have eliminated all other options, and now we can take with the bishop, with the knight, and then keeping the bishop alive. Now we're gonna have the bishop pair, which is gonna give us a slight advantage with white. Now the best move for black, I think we saw it before, yeah, is to take this pawn, correct? Now let's think about the weaknesses black has, because keeping the bishop alive also allows us to target this pawn in the future, as well as this knight. Although this knight can move, but let's think about targeting this pawn. Okay, now what would be the best move for white? We have many different options. I think something important is to recognize when you have multiple options and choose the one you feel comfortable with and spend more time in critical moments. This is not really a critical moment as there are many pieces on the board and there are some threats, I guess, but yeah, you are not really worried because none of black's pieces are coming to your side right away, except for the queen. And maybe you can create some threats. For example, you can go bishop. According to the computer, one of the best moves is to go bishop to d5. Although that I don't necessarily like that option because now I am a bit worried about one of these rooks coming in here, and I'm gonna have to defend with the my bishop. So I don't love that option according to the computer, but yeah, so we are humans. Now you have other options like rook to b1. Rook b1 is perfectly fine. It's actually the best move in according to the computer. Now you can play after queen takes on a3. You take this pawn, and now black is gonna defend this knight. So that is a good variation. That is one option you can go for. And the second is if you have more of an attack in mind, you can go for c4. Like, oh yeah, I'm so smart, I'm gonna attack the queen. So once the queen moves to e5, you have an equal position. You don't really have an advantage. You're gonna have to protect this bishop or move it, right? So maybe you can protect it with the queen, and you have a equal position. I don't love this push pawn avoid these one movers or avoid these pawn pushes early on in the game, because now you are allowing this knight to come in here. Maybe earlier you could have prevented this knight to jump in here. So you're also thinking about the long term. You want to get rid of more pieces before pushing pawns for no reason. So this is what happened in the game. Maybe it's a move that we haven't considered. Magnus Carlsen went queen c1. He was like, okay, let's just trade queens and enter this middle game. So once the rook takes back on c1, we have we have an interesting position, a very rich middle game slash end game. So now bishop, now that we retreat the bishop to b4, we get bishop to g6. Okay, let me show you. Bishop g6. We give a check on d5. Now black either has to retreat or defend. So we get bishop f7 and c4, rook to to c8, rook d2, and now knight to a5. All right, with that Venn diagram in mind, then we're gonna have a checklist of the opponent's threats. So this is why to move. You can pause the video now to try to figure out what is going on. Take your time. So, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and show you. Then the first thing in our list is, are they putting pressure on my king? Not really. Black doesn't have any checks. Even the dark square bishop is gone, so they cannot target back my queen, at least not in immediate. So the next thing in our list, are they threatening to capture any of my pieces? Probably yes. So I think the obvious case here will be the bishop. That is the biggest threat we have. And so we can calculate here. Maybe we can take the bishop. That would be one option to counter that threat. And the problem is at the end of this line. So let's say I capture the bishop. He recaptures. Then probably with the rook or with the king. We have to calculate that. But okay, let's say he recaptures with the rook. Now my pawn is hanging, so I will have to find a way to defend it. Probably here with the rook. Yeah, maybe rook c2. Although that is kind of passive. So, okay, let's just go back and not go deeper. One of the advice we can find here is you don't calculate 6 moves ahead in a variation that doesn't work. You calculate the 2 or 3 next moves in a variation that actually works. So what would be the next possibility? The next threat for black is to capture the pawn, isn't it? So as you can see, the pawn is being attacked 3 times. The knight, the rook, and the bishop are threatening to capture. So let's say I do something like very slow and I play h3. Now the knight can take, and so if I take here with the bishop, he takes, and now I cannot take this with the rook because the rook takes back on c4. So that doesn't work either. Let's go back again. And the next candidate move, what will be? So I'm just gonna show you, is actually just to push this pawn. Yeah, you push this pawn. Now with the objective of creating a pass pawn. Black takes, you can take back here with the bishop. So now I think you're equal in this at this time. Now let's reevaluate the position. What will be expecting from black's perspective? What will be the best move? So let's go with the lift. Now, are they putting pressure on my king? No. Are they threatening to capture any of my pieces? Yeah, possibly the bishop. I think the bishop is one of the most crucial parts of this position. So bishop on d5. But maybe that doesn't work. It doesn't work for black just to capture, and then I can just recapture with the rook, and it's going to be very active. So it doesn't work for black. Then what tactical threats do they have? Do they have any forks or pins? Possibly they have this knight to b3, so that is something to consider. But if they play it immediately, I just take here and then I take with the bishop. So yeah, that's not gonna work for black either. Then the next one is, are they preparing to activate pieces that could threaten me? Okay, we have our answer. Yeah, to get rid of this bishop, the best move to play for black is to go rook d8. Okay, a bunch of lines there. Now, what do we play with white? Let's consider our moves, and I'm gonna check this. I'm gonna change the checklist. Okay, we're gonna do a bit of calculation here. Let's go with the checklist when I am making the move. What checks, captures, or threats can I make? Yeah, probably you'll immediately see it. You can capture the bishop on f7, right? So without making the move, I will make the calculation. Then I take the bishop, he takes back with the king. Then a forcing move will be to go after this rook. Rook takes on d8. Then he's gonna have to take back. And now I can play bishop c7, forking the knight and the rook. And I don't stop calculating there because I should calculate on black's move. Then the problem with that is black has knight to b3. So when do I stop calculating? Until the forcing move, right? So if I take now the bishop, the new rook is going to be here, or the rook is going to be here. I can take the rook, but he's going to take my rook as well. So, okay, that is an equal position. Do I like this? Well, maybe. There is another option to consider. So let's go back here. Then, are there tactical motives I can exploit? Not maybe. How can I improve the activity of my pieces? And how can I position myself for future moves? So a slightly better move, arguably a slightly better move, would be, okay, let's just not do anything forcing at the moment. What if I am a little bit cheeky, and this is what Magnus Carlsen did, and that was his phrase. I will be a bit cheeky and play bishop to e4. So now that we have a new calculation that is worth exploring. So the calculation is rook takes on d2. I take back with the bishop. This knight is hanging. So the knight is going to have to move at forking these two pieces, the rook and my bishop. Now I can ignore that threat and take this pawn and create a bigger threat. So I guess I am about equal, but I have better piece activity. And I don't know if you have seen my video on endgame priorities. Pawn promotion is very important. And also piece activity, you should prioritize piece activity over material. Because now you're worried about losing the bishop or to the rook, right? But yeah, you don't care about that. And let's make the moves. So okay, this is what actually happened in the game. It was a blitz games, but the calculation of Magnus was incredible. Knight goes here, so now I can take here with the bishop, and the knight and the rook has to move. So the rook is going to move here. How many moves does Magnus Carlsen consider? Only 2 or 3. That is the answer. Sometimes it's like, oh, you have to consider like 17 moves at the same time. No, only the 2 or 3 possibilities because your brain doesn't have that much capacity anyway. Now, we have 2 options here mainly. One, let's consider bishop f4. This is what Magnus Carlsen was calculating. Okay, once our bishop falls, now maybe we push c6, but the rook just go back. We just go back. So doesn't work. What will be the next move? Also, feel free to pause and at any point in this video because I know this can be difficult to calculate. You can check you can go over the checklist, and so let me show you what Magnus Carlsen played. He played c6. Here the position this is a brilliant move because it's like, wait, two our pieces are hanging. Yeah, but let's consider the threats and the different variations. Okay, let's say that black takes here with the bishop, which is actually the best move. Now we have rook d1, right? We can pose a bigger threat. And the knight is gonna have to move, and we have this check here. So yeah, and it's gonna be difficult for black to defend. I guess you can play bishop e7 and then bring the king over. So that didn't even happen in the game, but it's worth considering. Now, actually, the move that happened in the game, very human. Black took the rook. Now you can play bishop to a5, kicking this rook out. So, okay, now we reevaluate. We consider again what black is going to do. So, what is black best move is just maybe to keep creating a threat. Maybe going here, right? With the rook to e7. Okay, rook e7. Now, how do you counter this threat with white? Okay, so let's calculate a little bit again. Rook e7, pushing the pawn, bishop e7, and then we can play a brilliant move again, which is bishop to d5. Yeah, bishop to d5, because now if black takes my bishop, I can promote my pawn. So I'm gonna show you the line here. Okay, rook e7, push the pawn, bishop to e6. Now I play bishop to this 5, and I cannot move the bishop, it's pinned, right? So if I take, now this comes with check. So yeah, that doesn't work for black. Yeah, what can actually work for black is to give up the rook for one of these, for the pawn. So this is the line just to show you. Let's go here, rook e7. Now we play c7. The bishop is gonna try to stop this, right? We have a forcing move, a tactical motive, which is playing d5. If the bishop takes, then I just promote my pawn. Doesn't work for black. What black has to do is to give up the rook, and I don't immediately take. I have a forcing move before that, so I can take here with the bishop. And yeah, is the only defense that black has is to go here. Like if white plays, well, if black plays h8, maybe that's a possibility, but it's way too passive. Oh no, no. So it's losing the rook. See how you have to calculate. So that will be the only defensive move. And also, if you play here, you also just lose the rook. So the only move to save the rook and not the game is just to go here, and you don't even have to rush it, right? This move is not going anywhere. But now you have an advantage. Yeah, at the end of the day, you have an advantage with white because the bishop is going to be slightly better than the knight. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.